Hey there guys, it's Online Gaming, and today I'm going to be showing you some strategies in agar.io. There's a couple of things that you need to know when you first join in. First off is the controls. You move your mouse cursor around in the direction of which you want your blob to go, and if you press space with a mass greater than 38, you will split completely in half and gives you a little extra speed. Also, if you press the W key, it will eject a little bit of mass that amounts to 25. Once you get the controls down, there's three main parts of this game: the beginning, the mid part, and the end game, where you're on the leaderboard. During the beginning part of the game, your main strategy and your main goal is to collect as many of the little dots as you can. Just keep going around, try to find the most advantageous route to take so that you collect the most and gain mass the quickest, because as you gain mass the quickest, it means that you'll get bigger and it'll be harder and harder for other people to eat you. One thing to note during this period, it is highly recommended not to split due to the fact that you will be much smaller and it will be easier for other people to eat you and you'll have to start all over again. After you've reached a score of around 200 to 300, you have now entered the mid-game, and this is the part where it's okay to split, but be sure that you have to be 33% larger than the other blob to split over them and absorb them. And remember that once you are in two parts, you do need to manage those two parts well so that someone doesn't sneak up behind you and eat the other half and then you're back to where you started. A warning though, in this stage you are most vulnerable because as you're increasing in size, you are starting to slow down, and you are not big enough to start eating people on the leaderboard yet, but you're also small enough so that other people can potentially chase you down and pin you in a corner and possibly eat you. So this is highly recommended to make sure that you keep track of all the parts that you have and make sure that you don't split too many times. Once you've reached a score of around 900 to 1000, you are entering endgame, which is where you're probably 9 or 10 on the leaderboard, or if not, you're really close to that. And here is when you are big enough to eat just about anybody else. But always be warned that there are people above you that are bigger, and they are constantly looking for people on the lower half of the leaderboard to eat. So be very careful, but you're almost in the clear. As you get bigger and bigger and move up the leaderboard, there's some things that you need to consider. Since you're so large, it's very hard for you to chase down people, so make sure you choose your victims wisely, that you're able to split above them or pin them in the corner. Also, since you're so big, other people will want your mass, and the little green things are called viruses, and sometimes people will try to shoot them at you, which will bust you up into 16 little pieces so that they can get bigger and possibly eat you. Once you follow these steps, you'll be on your way to being number one in no time. But there's a couple other things that you need to know to make sure that you survive as long as possible. The first thing that you need to know is that teams can form in agar.io. Whether it's a silent agreement or two friends playing, you need to watch out for these because they can share their mass and switch it around so that they can be bigger than you and potentially eat you. So, one thing you can do is help make a team yourself. And it's a simple way of doing that. If you see two people that are roughly the same size trying to eat each other, pick one of them and shoot a little bit of mass in it. It won't take more than 5 mass blobs to make them bigger, and they will eat them, and generally people are nice enough that they will give it back and you have formed a team. The second thing that you need to know is that if you're around 4, 5, 6, and maybe 7 on the leaderboard, you need to make sure that you stay away from the edge if possible, because that makes it easier for the larger blobs to pin you and eat you, and then you have to start all over. So to avoid that, stay around the center and avoid them at all costs. If you follow those tips, you'll be a pro agar.io player in no time. But there's a couple other tips that you might need to ensure that you survive the longest. The first tip that you need to know is that you cannot be in more than 16 pieces. So, if you have a greater mass than 600 and you go over a little virus, it will bust you up into a bunch of pieces, but you'll have one piece large enough to go around and eat other viruses, which will then in turn increase your mass. This is a quick way to go up onto the leaderboard, but only do this if you're alone, because other people will take advantage of that and try to eat your little pieces. And another tip is that use those viruses to your advantage. If you're slightly smaller than someone and they're trying to chase you, try hugging the virus very tightly, but not too tightly so that you burst, to lose them, or force them to go over a virus, which will make them in turn bust up so that you can get more mass. Another thing that you can do with the viruses is that you can shoot mass into them, which will make them grow, and after you shoot 7 pieces into it, it will split off in the direction that you have shot the mass. And this can be used to bust up larger blobs and make them easier to handle. Alright guys, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It will really help me out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a good one.